Hi there, everybody, and welcome to part 3 of the hashtag Critical Infrastructure SA series that is run by Impactful Conversations and powered by Sebenzana. I am absolutely thrilled today to be joined by Ntombifuthi Ntuli, who I will briefly introduce and greet in just a moment. Just to give you a brief overview of who she is. She's the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Wind Energy Association. She was appointed to this position in September 2019 and is tasked with steering the industry as it takes a central role in South Africa's energy mix and transition, which we're going to have a chat about a little bit later. She has a strong background in renewable energy policy as well, and research environments, having previously worked for the CSIR and as a research group leader. Ntombi also holds an MPhil degree in energy studies from the University of Johannesburg and a certificate in economic development policy from the University of Witwatersrand. She previously worked in the Department of Trade and Industry as a director of green industries, where she was responsible for facilitating development of the local renewable energy manufacturing industry as well. And before joining the Department of Trade and Industry, she spent 3 years at the Embassy of Denmark, working as coordinator for the Business to Business program, where she actually facilitated, links between the Danish and South African companies as well. So I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by a person of such high stature and such high quality of thought. It's my absolute pleasure, Ntombi, to welcome you to Impactful Conversations. Thank you so much for joining. How are you doing this morning? Yeah, when we're recording this.
Thank you, Tafaza. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks for having me. And good morning to your listeners.
Thank you so much, Ntombi. And I think we typically start on the show, to kind of just get into it by getting to know you a little bit. And so I just want to, know from your side, so where were you born and where did you grow up? And then I think at the end of that, just keeping in touch with the theme, what does the term critical infrastructure mean to you?
All right. Ntombifuthi Ntuli, I was born in Mtunzini, which is a coastal town just 20 kilometers south of Richards Bay. And I basically spent all my childhood there, did primary school and high school, and then moved to Durban to do tertiary education. That's when I studied environmental health at which is now Durban University of Technology. Back then it was called ML Sultan Technikon.
Oh, awesome. And if I had to say the two words critical infrastructure, what does that mean to you? What does it sort of ring in your mind when I say those two words?
To me, it means the kind of country-owned assets that enable growth and development of the country and the economy, and also enables interconnectedness within the country's economy. So critical infrastructure for me will be things like roads, will be things like a broadband network, would be things like energy, water, and so forth. So it's very important. No country economy can function without proper critical infrastructure being deployed.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I love the word that you use there, interconnectedness. I think that was, such a powerful sort of term and a very, visual, depiction of, I think, what critical infrastructure is all about. But before we get, dive into that a little bit more about you and your journey and your story. So I know you studied a number of different degrees in your career, as I said, quite early on. But let's firstly talk about your, environmental health degree. I want to get to understand what is the inception behind it? What was the actual, spark for you to do that? And what sparked that sort of passion that is so clearly, blossomed throughout your life? And, then what propelled you to do your further studies and your master's degrees?
Yeah, well, very interesting. I developed a love for the environment when I was in high school. So when I was doing standard 9 and standard 10, which is now grade 11 and 12,
Yes,
I,
yeah.
I got involved with Department of Natural Conservation. So they used to come to our school, they adopted our school, and they had a program and a couple of selected learners at school where we got involved in day-to-day activities in protecting the environment. So in our school, we started a recycling project. We started a grass planting project and protecting the trees and all of that. So when I left high school, for me, that seed was planted. And I thought, well, this would be a nice journey to continue with. And that's when I decided to study environmental health after high school.
That's so powerful, that you were already sort of doing that in school. And I think that's such a powerful example, for any school kids who would be listening to this, that actually we can actually do so much in the environments, around us. I'm curious, you've worked, both in research as well as in the public sector as well. So you've had sort of quite a broad base of experience across different sectors, even sort of in the sort of environmental sector as it is. What are some of the personal growth lessons that you've learned that that you picked up along the way that have been the most valuable to you?
Okay, personal growth lessons. I will come to that. I wanted to come to your other previous question about how did I get to study masters,
Oh,
because that's
yes,
one
yes.
of
Let's
my
talk about
favorite
the
stories
masters.
to
Let's talk
tell.
about the masters. Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Yes. So what happened is, now I was working for Eguruleni, as you have seen in my resume, um, as an environmental officer, and I got involved in a lot of projects, and I got involved with a project called Eneki, which was a joint partnership or cooperation between South African municipalities and universities and German municipalities, universities, and private sector. So we were working towards uh, using energy as a key to unlock the economy. So I got involved in the project. University of Johannesburg, Professor Harold Anegan, uh, came to my office and he said, are you studying? And I said, no, I'm not. Why are you not studying? You are still young. Well, I was still young then. And he said, I would like to recruit you to come and do your master's at UJ. I will personally mentor you and I will be your supervisor because I can see potential. And I was like, yeah, and then I decided, okay, he said, go and write your proposal. I wrote my proposal, looked at it, said, okay, when it's good enough, then we're going to go ahead and register. This was now in 2008. And then 2009, I was ready to register. And when we went there, they remember I started at a Technicon. And yeah, UJ being former RAU is the mainstream university. So when we registered, and then they said, no, this is a Technicon student. She won't cope doing an untaught master's, and we're not going to register her. And it made me realize that actually when people take the time to recognize the potential that you have, you need to fight along with them, because Prof. Anegan really fought for me to get in that master's degree. 6 months later, eventually I was registered, and 2.5 years later, I got my degree. So, like I said, it's one of my favorite stories, because for me, it was someone recognizing my potential and actually putting their head on the block to fight for me to get in. And for me, it was, I need to pass. I need to prove them wrong. And I need to make sure that I deliver in record time. And I did that.
Absolutely, that's absolutely incredible. And I think that's such a profound and powerful story, in terms of the power of investing in people.
Exactly.
And just seeing the potential that people can provide, to the world. And I think you have, shown that in leaps and bounds throughout your career. And coming to the personal growth,
Yeah,
I'm very sort of
coming to
enlightened. In light of that, I'm very sort of interested to get a sense of, what are some of the personal growth lessons that you have learned throughout your career as well as your studies as well.
Yeah, so for me, personal growth lessons is like I've said now,
Mm.
life will plant people in your path. That will be catalyst for you to get to the next level. And those will be your guardian angels. And you reward them with diligence, you reward them with success, and make sure that you don't disappoint them because they want nothing else from you. They want
Yeah.
to see you succeed. So that's one. Second one is you don't need a position to lead. So as you grow in the career as a person, don't wait to be a manager to give strategic direction. When you've got ideas, put your ideas forward because for me, when I worked for Eguruleni, when my manager resigned, I took up what would typically be her work and I started coordinating energy projects. And actually, it's because I took that initiative back then in 2006 that I can
Mm.
stand here and be CEO of the South African Wind Energy Association.
Mm.
So you don't need a position to lead. I was still environmental officer, but I was coordinating energy project at that level where my manager would have.
Mm.
Last one is, which I think has, in hindsight, worked for me, is build your personal brand. We go through life and careers not recognizing that putting yourself out there actually has a benefit to your personal growth.
Mm.
But be selective about what you put out there. So we now have great platforms. We've got conferences, speaking opportunities. We've got social media platforms that we can use. It's tools at our discretion to
Mm.
actually brand ourselves as a person. So when people look at Ntombifuthi Ntuli, they must know this is the person that stands for this. What do you stand for as a person? And what do you want to be known for? Yeah.
Mm.
So those
Mm.
are the three for me.
Those are those are three exceptionally powerful lessons, and I think I particularly love the part around you don't need a position to lead, because I think that's super inspirational, right? I think sometimes we wait for a position for us to sort of realize our leadership potential, whereas
Yeah.
actually we can make a difference wherever we are if only we should start and look to the future and look for a brighter future. So I think that was exceptionally powerful, and thank you for sharing that with us. Um,
Thanks.
we started off quite fast. We started off very fast.
Yeah.
So let's slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
We started off quite fast. We launched right into your life. Where
Uh,
you grew up, where you were born, life lessons, all of that. I want to slow it down a little bit and get to know you a little bit more again.
mhm.
Um, Typical day in the life of Ntombifuthi Ntuli. What is that typical day like? And I suppose I'll say a typical sort of working day. How
Yeah.
does it go? Are you a morning person, evening person? Are you bright and early, or are you sort of a slow burner throughout the day? How does a typical day in your life go?
Look, I'm not a morning person.
Mm.
So I don't even try to wake up at 4 a.m. because it's not gonna work because I'm a night owl. Sometimes I sleep at 2 a.m. So so I survive on very little sleep
Mm.
by choice
Mm.
because I prefer to work in the evenings when it's more quiet and if there are things that I need to do. So a
Mm.
typical day for me is okay, well, these days I wake up, go for a short run, uh,
Nice.
come back and then come back, check my, in fact, the first thing I do, light up my phone, check my diary. What does my
Yeah.
day look like?
Mm.
And once I know what my diary looks like, then I know, do I have time to go for a jog or not?
Mm.
And then if not, then I wake up, go to my workstation at home and set up and basically go through meetings, which mostly involves interaction with our stakeholders. We are an industry association,
Mm.
and our main job is to unlock the doors for the industry and make sure
Mm.
that we lobby for the growth and development of the industry. So it will be interaction with members, it will be interaction with our external stakeholders, and making sure that we sit in important tables where decisions about wind energy are being made, and make sure that the sector has the voice in those particular discussions. So basically, I would say my days are filled with back-to-back meetings.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I hope you get to rest at some point.
I do. I do. I do. I always make sure that at least 5 to 6 p.m. I knock off, switch off everything. Then I spend time with the kids. I've got 2 kids. And then later on, when we are done with family time, everyone is going to bed. And then I can continue working if I feel like I want to do that. So because like I told you, I'm a night owl. I love working in the evening.
Oh, that's great. I'm actually the complete opposite. I'm a what is it? Opposite of a night owl is like a what? An
You're a
early bird.
morning
Early bird.
person, early
Yeah, I'm
bird.
an early bird. Yeah, I'm an early
No problem.
bird. I knew there was a phrase. Yeah, I'm an early
Yeah.
bird. So I mean today's Saturday and I woke up at 5:30, just because I don't. It was even before my alarm. But hey, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. But so that's actually really quite powerful, in terms of how you spend your day. I think it's important for people to sort of get a sneak peek into that reality, to get a sense of you as the person, and the amount of work that you get through, for, I think, such an important cause and such an important topic and a topical discussion in the industry at the moment, which we'll get to in just a
Yeah.
moment.
And
So,
I must add that
yeah.
this lockdowns and COVID-19 has actually forced us to embrace the work from home environment. And sometimes the lines are really blurred between family and work thing, but we just need to find that balance. What I have found personally is, because my office is very far from my house, is the time I save that I could have been traveling to the office actually makes a huge difference in my work, because I find that I've got time to do more, and
Yeah.
it's been great. Yeah.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. I think, cutting down on that time has sort of unlocked, a lot of potential in the amount of work that we're able to do. You've traveled to many different countries. I'm sure, and we know you've obviously lived in different countries as well. Um, Now, if I had to ask you, which one is your favorite? You have to pick one. Which one would you say is your favorite? Not that you stayed in, but actually that you've just been to.
Yeah. I love Eastern countries. For me, my favorite was Japan.
Wow.
Uh, I, I went to Japan in 2012,
Mm.
and what strike me about the country is it's really first world. So
Yeah.
when it's first world country, everything came into the hotel, and I found everything was automated. You just press the remote, the curtains open, you go to the bathroom, the toilet is automated. I was like, wow, I could live like this. In fact, I want to import that bathroom system. So I really loved
Yeah.
that, because it's really the first world for me, and
Mm.
the people there are very respectful, and the thing of like greeting, bow down, exchange business cards, and I found that they really look after their guests. And that
Mm.
was also my experience when I went to Taiwan. Taiwan,
Okay.
it looked after us like we were VIPs, unlike in other countries that I won't mention,
Yeah.
where get to the airport, you have to find a way to the hotel, and you have to
Mm.
find a way to the meeting tomorrow, you know. Yeah, but my next my next favorite was the US,
Okay.
because we
Mm.
had an opportunity to spend like 5 weeks in the US for work,
Mm.
and traveled from the East Coast to the West Coast. And for me, I was just starstruck, because I was seeing all the places I see in the movies, the
Yes.
San Francisco, Chicago, Washington, D.C. So, yeah, that was just amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very, very different once you get to see it,
Mm.
in real life. And I think I look forward to visiting Japan one day and seeing the luxurious life that you that you said that you spoke about.
Oh, by the way, when I was in Japan, then we had an earthquake, which was an experience of a
Oh,
lifetime. We had like a proper earthquake with buildings moving like that.
oh my goodness.
And
That must have
so,
been that
yeah,
must have been
obviously, I mark it as a experience of a lifetime, but it's
yeah.
not an environment you want to find yourself in.
No, it's not yeah, but you pretty much got the full experience,
Yes.
You got the full experience. No, thank you so much for sharing that. So wind energy, um,
Yeah.
and particularly in the South African, context, uh, this is such an interesting topic, and
Mm.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this and to really dig into this particular topic and to I think and I would imagine anybody who's listening to this is probably like, yes, finally they're talking about wind energy.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, um, what do you think are the main advances, technological advances, that have made wind energy a more competitive energy source in South Africa?
Mm. Yeah, I would say wind turbine technology is
Mm,
advancing every year. So when the industry started in South Africa about 10 years ago,
mm,
we were using smaller wind turbines. About the projects that have installed turbine size 1.8 megawatts up to 2.5.
mm,
The next bidding round that we are waiting for, industry or the equipment manufacturers are talking 6 megawatt machines. So
wow.
you can see that advancement. It
Mm,
also means that you install, because it means you install fewer turbines
mm,
the field, and therefore you are able to harvest more, to generate more energy with fewer installations. So
yeah.
for me, I think that technological advancement actually even helps the technology to become more competitive and
Mm,
produce more with less. And
I
then
think
also helps to reduce the levelized cost of electricity.
yeah, absolutely, and I
Yeah,
think that's an incredibly powerful advancement, and I think something
yeah,
which I'm excited to sort of see come into the fore in the immediate future.
yeah.
If I had to ask you, what do you think? How important do you think is the role of the youth in the
Mm.
discussion around a new energy mix for South Africa, and the energy mix for now as well as the energy mix for the next 5 to 10 years, and how do we bring them to the table,
Mm.
such that they are also contributing to that discussion?
A very important question. Youth is the future leaders. No, so
Mm,
they are the energy sector leaders of tomorrow, and
mm,
we need to make sure that we embrace, we guide, and especially when they are now inside the sector, we need to make sure that we share the knowledge, because I mean some of us are old and have been involved in the industry for more than 10 years, almost 15 years. And
mm,
that institutional memory is something that we need to have, those kind of conversations to bring the young ones up to say, this is where we are coming from. Yes, you will go and find research papers that detail, but I think sharing the knowledge that we have as the seniors in the sector, I think that will help. And
mm.
then secondly, we need to guide the youth in the right direction in terms of choices, of career choices and educational choices.
Yeah.
So we do from the wind sector, we have what we call a energy drive, where we we partner with different partners, take this truck from DUT and travel for a period of 2 weeks throughout the schools in the Eastern and Western Cape.
Mm,
And that a fully equipped truck goes to each and every high school, targeting grade 11s and grade 12s, teach them about the energy sector, and so that we guide their career choices when they leave the high school environment.
Amazing.
And then third one, we have a conference called WINDEC Africa, where we create a platform for researchers to present their academic work. So it would usually mostly be university students, and we make sure that our WINDEC conference actually coincides with our flagship industry conference, Windaba, and so that the students can have an opportunity to network and interact with people within the sector in the Windaba exhibition. So those are some of the things that we're doing, and we're hoping to do more. We are just maybe a little bit strained in terms of resources, but yeah.
No, but that's wonderful. I love the idea of going to schools and directly, engaging with people about the energy sector, and I think that's so powerful. I really think that is incredibly powerful, and the work that you're doing, I think is going to set us in good stead, not just for the future, but right now, to actually have those pertinent discussions that we need to have. If I ask you, when we talk critical infrastructure and in the prospect of energy in South Africa in particular, how do you think we need to rethink how we manage our critical infrastructure, particularly around energy? And this question is sort of in two parts. The first being, what is it that we are currently or starting to do well in this respect, and that you think we need to improve on?
Okay, so in the energy space, particularly, energy is a very important catalyst for economic growth. So we can't grow the economy without energy. Currently, we in a crisis. Our energy availability factor is way below 60%, which lands us in the load shedding situation that we are continuously in.
Yes.
So what we are not doing right is planning properly and following through with the plans, because if you would go back to the policy environment, you'll know that in 1998 there was an energy policy approved that actually talked about diversifying the energy mix, that talked about restructuring of the national power utility, ESCOM. Those things are starting to happen now, but they were approved by government in 1998. Why is it taking us so long to actually jump into action, right? The load shedding that started in 2007 was already predicted in that policy paper in 1998.
Yeah.
And if we had acted earlier, we would have avoided that situation. So fast forward to where we are now. I think there's a lot of good action happening, but I think we are kind of behind schedule in terms of the gap, the energy capacity gap that keeps getting wider and wider. We are not closing it fast enough. So to do that, we need to make sure that we've got now the integrated resource plan was approved in 2019, and to make sure that we implement it as quickly as possible. I was just glad to hear in the State of the Nation address day before yesterday that there are now firm plans to go ahead and procure a new energy generation capacity, because we need, and it's just that we need to plan, but we need to follow through with action as soon as possible so that we can close this capacity gap, because our power stations are all reaching end of life, and there's a plan to decommission 10 gigawatts of coal power over the next 10 years. We need to close that gap.
Yeah. And it's time. You're right. It's time for action, and it's time to I think rapidly progress this forward. And linking to another another planning document, as it were, which is the National Development Plan. What role do you think, wind energy specifically, has to play in, and I quote here from the document, creating an environmentally sustainable, climate change resilient, and low carbon economy, as well as a just society? So, what role do you think wind energy has, to play in creating that future for South Africa?
National Development Plan is a very important planning document for the country, and it's very specific in terms of different outcomes that it wants to see. And I think that wind energy actually contributes to a number of those outcomes. One, it makes a commitment to procure 20 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. And if you ask me if are we on track in achieving that, I would say definitely are, because now we've got already procured capacity of renewable energy of about 6.8 gigawatts if we combine all technologies. And the plan to procure in terms of the integrated resource plan of 20 gigawatts of renewables by 2030. So I think we'll be on track to achieve that. But it's not just putting power in the grid. The NDP also looks at creating an efficient, competitive, and responsive economic infrastructure network. So that's one. And then there are areas where it talks about protecting the environment and creating jobs. So creating a sustainable economy, you put power in the grid, but there is a lot that the industry is contributing in terms of attracting investment, creating jobs, socioeconomic development in the areas that the projects are built in, and making sure that we achieve our broad-based Black economic empowerment targets that have been committed to.
Yeah. Are there any specific wind energy projects that you are particularly excited about to form, part of this, plan going forward?
Not one specific, but I know there are a lot of projects currently under development because they need to do the development activities before the bidding. So there's a lot of projects. In fact, I think this bidding round that we're expecting over the next couple of weeks is going to be oversubscribed, because remember, industry has been waiting for a bidding window since 2014. So while waiting, there's been a lot of development activity. So projects are ready, and once the bidding window opens, they already have their certifications, environmental authorizations, civil aviation authorizations, and they've done all the necessary studies, and they are ready. So we're really looking forward to the next bidding window. It's going to be an exciting year, actually.
Yeah, and to quote you from about a few minutes ago, it's time for action. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
Action.
Yeah, it's time for action. I love that. That's going to stick with me. And Ntombi, I just want to thank you. We've come to the end of our chat. I just want to thank you so much for sharing incredible knowledge. Firstly, I think for sharing with us your powerful story, and not just the lessons that you've learned through that, but the lessons that we've learned through listening to your story, and how inspirational it is, and how insightful you have sort of depicted it, and summarized it so in such a way that it has been so inspiring for us to actually listen to. So thank you firstly for sharing your story, your journey, and your passions as well with us this morning. And then secondly, thank you for sharing your insights around, our critical infrastructure in South Africa, around wind energy specifically, and around, I think, overall, the sort of energy sector in South Africa. I think, we count ourselves, really privileged to have been able to listen to you. And I count myself really privileged to be in the same virtual room as you. And to actually have shared this conversation. I'm much, much richer for it. And I just want to thank you so much for a truly impactful conversation. And I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show. I hope you've enjoyed it as well.
I have enjoyed it. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Wonderful, wonderful. So to our listeners, from Ntombifuthi Ntuli and myself, we want to thank you so much for listening to the episode. And if you have any feedback for us in terms of how you found this, no doubt impactful. But please do go over to impactfulconversations.co.za and share your feedback with us in terms of how you found the episode. We'd love to know how it impacted you and how it made your life infinitely better, and inspired you to go on and to change your world for the better. So from Ntombifuthi Ntuli and myself, we want to say thank you and goodbye.
Bye-bye.